This is the assembly video for the SeedSigner Plus with SmartCard. We have our case and top, we have some buttons, and a shim that we will use for the SD card. We have the Raspberry Pi Zero 1.3. We have the SmartCard hat for the Java cards, the SeedSigner Plus hat, nice large screen, a micro SD card extender, the Raspberry Pi Zero camera, little one. And then also on standby will be a power bank, which is to regular USB-C plug, and our software ready to go. Other implements that typically keep on hand is a knife for trimming up some things on the plastic where necessary, and usually just for general purpose pair of pliers is also a good thing to have. So the first thing we're going to inspect carefully here. This is all 3D printed, and in particular this first little hole, if the camera can focus in there, this is the micro SD slot, and you can see where there's just a little bit of extra PLA that is dripped down in there. So this is where we're gonna take our knife and just trim that out to make sure it is nice and open. Made that mistake once before. And then anything else, I'm going to go ahead and inspect the rest of the case here, but anything else that, if there's any edge that you don't want to be there just for aesthetic reasons, the micro SD card slot is probably the only one that's important functionality-wise, but I'm going to clean the rest of this up, and I will be right back. All right, just took a minute or two to clean up all the little bumps. Nothing dramatic going on there. What we're going to do for this assembly is first we are going to assemble the main parts and do a functions test kind of as we go, so that in case there's any issues we can go ahead and understand where the problems might have cropped up, and then we will put everything in the case. So we are going to need obviously our little Pi Zero 1.3. This does all of the activity. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to mount the camera in here. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. So this end down here is where there's a little retention. This little black bar is the part that the camera goes in. And so if you see the contacts right here, those will go down against the board. On occasion, we have people that kind of somehow mess that up by threading it in the wrong way, but it's going to go on the very bottom. So that just fits, it just slips right in there beneath the bar. And then when we clip the bar back down, it's going to hold everything in place. Okay, make sure to get both sides in there. All right. Looks nice and level. All right, on the back, there's an adhesive piece that we will take off so we can put it on here. And there's a very specific place that we want this to go. If you look at the letters, which are upside down as we're facing it, where we want the camera to go, we'll have all of these letters on the far end, numbers exposed, and then this row where it says STM5, that is going to be halfway covered up. The positioning is kind of important because we have a camera hole on the back, and so when we push this in, this needs to already be in the right place. So with that, we will go ahead and let me bring this up closer so I can see what I'm doing, and then we will stick it on there. All right. The glue on the back is not terribly sticky, so it's not too sensitive. It's not going to stick until you're really ready to make it stick. But as I said, we're going to go ahead and position it so that half the numbers are covered up, the ones that are toward the bottom, the STM, and then that entire row of numbers on the side should be exposed. So with that, just hold it in place for a second. Notice that we're not like creasing anything. This is just a nice tight bend. And then we'll go ahead and remove the lens cover. All right. So the first thing we're going to go ahead and do, and again, just to test everything out, is we're going to go ahead and mount it to the SeedSigner Plus screen hat. So these pieces will just press in here. All right, that's all the way down. And on the Raspberry Pi board itself, there's two micro USB which you may recall from back in the day. And those, one is for data and one is for power. The way this screen hat board has been designed, now all the power can come through the USB-C port right here, which is very nice. So before we put anything else in there, we need to get a copy of our SeedSigner firmware. And that is going to go, probably should have put this in before I mounted the hat, that's okay. That's going to go into the micro SD slot right underneath here. If we can get the camera focused for a second, that will go right in here. Now we are ready to power up. There is no on button. Oops, I've got a micro USB on my battery right here. I'll be right back. And presto, we have a USB-C power cord now, so we're just going to plug that in. Depending on the case, you may not be able to see this, but when you first power on a SeedSigner, you're going to see the green and red sort of alternate flashes, and then we will wait for the boot up. There it is, version 8.6. All right, and then it'll tell us when everything's loaded, you can remove the SD card. The one thing that we are going to do to continue to make sure everything is functioning correctly is we're going to go into the settings menu, and we're going to go and do the I/O test. So do all 4 buttons and the middle button, and then we'll capture an image on the camera, clear it out, hit exit. Okay, that all looks good. And then the other thing we will do while we're here in settings, if there's any issues at all when you first load up your firmware, if there's some issue because the screen doesn't fit, like there's a bunch of trash and noise on the right side, what you're going to do is go down to the bottom of the advanced menu inside the settings menu, go down, all the way down to the bottom to hardware, look at display type, and if it is set on 240 by 240, that's for the small little 1.3 inch screen, and for the SeedSigner Plus, we should have this on the 320 by 240. So there we go. That's all we have to do. No power on or power off. You just cut the power by pulling that out and it's ready to go. So the next thing we will do is we are going to add in the Java card. And so we will carefully separate out the pins here. Obviously, this is not something you'd want to be putting together and taking apart constantly, but it should be okay. We're going to go ahead and remove our software. The other thing that we will do now on this round is we're going to test the micro SD extension. So again, you can see the contacts right there, just like the camera. We want those to be set into the board. And that's just a press fit in. There's no spring mechanism on the board itself. There is, though, on the extension, which is nice. So we've got that part in. And then looking at the Java card hat, so the bottom of it, these pieces will go down on top of the SeedSigner pins. Will fit like that. And the top side, which is where the card reader itself is, this is just a cover. We will take off the cover. There we go. Set that aside, expose those pins. All right, so this is all gonna fit down inside 1, 2, 3. Let me pull this up here so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. So you fit that together. And then the only other thing, if you want to take a good look before assembling it, is you'll see the main pins that are soldered will be those 5 on the left side, and then these 4 on the right side. And as long as those all look good, which they do, then we should be ready to go. All right, so then on top of that, then we'll go to the plus size hat. Nice, how everything just stacks together. Okay. And finally, we need to put our firmware into, oops, probably helps if I do that in the right direction. Is that upside down? Which way does this go? There we go. Let's see here. It's going to be bending like this. Yeah, that should be correct. So the shim side that's already built into here. Let's see. It'll be very obvious when we get everything assembled properly which side it plugs into. Okay. Contacts toward the shim as you're testing it looks like, right? That sounds right. Okay, there we go. Now that plugs in. You could hear it click. And now the same process again. Plug in the power. Watch for the lights to flash back and forth. All right, and there we go. All right, same thing. Go into settings. Really shouldn't be any more issues since the hat is right here, but we'll do the I/O test again anyway. Go through all the buttons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do the camera snap. Clear that and exit. And for this video, we're just going to focus on assembly and not talk about testing the card just now. So that's all we're going to do with that. And go ahead and do that, and then this should eject. Yep, very nice clicky sound, so we'll set that aside. All right, so now our next step will be to assemble into the case. And I believe we should be able to leave the Java card hat attached to the screen, but we are going to need to take the computer part off. So, okay, inside of here, when we look inside, you can see where it's pretty clear where the board is going to need to go. All right, the camera hole is just to the sort of on the left side of that, which lines up nicely right here. And down inside here in the top, there's two very subtle kind of retention bumps, but not too serious. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the board in the bottom with the ports down, get those kind of seated in there, and then we're just going to snap and press fit everything into place. So that looked pretty good. All right, now is where our other little shim is going to come into place, so we'll get hold of that. And what we'll do with the micro SD extension is we're going to fold over and then do a 90-degree twist under. Not folding it like creasing it, we're just bending it into place. We'll get a little bit of a bend so that fits nicely. All right, and then these pins, of course, will need to be exposed. It looks like the natural way for the cable. The cable naturally, if we don't tuck it down, is going to want to cover those pins. So we'll go ahead and make sure that those are down beneath the pins. And then the micro SD extender will be down in that little bump that we cleared out before in this little hole. All right, and then this other shim is going to go on top. And the left wing is a little bit tight in this case. So if there's any trouble here, then of course just grab your trusty knife and whittle it down a little bit. I'm going to see if I can just fit this in here. Yeah, mine's a little uncomfortable. One wing or the other is a little bit longer than it needs to be. So I'm just going to take a second here and cut some of that. Take a little bit of plastic off. Good news is it's a good snug fit. It's better than the alternative of it rubbling around. Okay, we'll see if that takes care of it. Yep, that'll fit down in there nicely. No retention bumps or anything, it just kind of sits down in there. And so now we are left with, let me back out here just a little bit. Just putting the screen and the SmartCard hat on top. I was guessing we could keep them together. Let's see what happens here. Let's back up a step here. So when putting this piece in right here, what I tried to do that was not the best technique was I tried to put it directly down, and what actually happened is the lower set of receivers was in the upper set of pins, and then the lower set of pins was not plugged into anything. That obviously isn't going to work. So the right answer here, we've got our micro SD extension, we have our shim, which nice and snug down in there. And then looking at this now, you should see the power data port and the everything very snug and dressed up. And then the easiest way to do this then is go ahead and take the Java card thing, make sure it's all the way in the hole, and then you can pull it back up and look directly down and make sure that it is seated properly across the entire 40-pin set. And then once that's in place, same thing, just check everything to make sure that it's very square, that it looks like the card is lined up well. And then when you're doing the screen, it's sort of the same process again. You gotta make sure the USB-C is down here in the front. And then as you look from the top, I'm going to pull this close to me so I can see, but the main thing is to be able to sort of inspect as you're doing the final insertion to make sure that the header is sitting cleanly on top of the pins. And when they are, there isn't a lot of finagling because it will slide right down on top of them. And there's not a lot of room in the side of the case either. So the alignment, as long as the underlying hat is in the right place, then the alignment is pretty good. Okay, and so notice there wasn't a lot of noise and rustling that time. It sits right down in there, and you can see there's a fair amount of space under the edge of the lip, which is good because the next thing we'll do is put the faceplate and the buttons on. But first, before we put that piece, now we're going to go ahead and check everything with the firmware one more time. So we put in our micro SD card, we plug in our power, and you can see as you look through the SmartCard hat, you can see the lights flashing in there. Can't really see the red light, but you can obviously see the green light that's on. And then there it is, it's all booted up. All right, so now with everything booted up, I'm going to go ahead and mount the screen or the faceplate. So the notch on this piece will be up. I turn that way, the notch will be facing us. And then on this one, we have a closed side of the buttons and an open side of the buttons. The open side will face out. Don't ask me exactly what happens if you face everything in the other direction. It seems like it's all symmetrical, but in any case, those are the instructions. And then since those will be prone to fall out, it's easiest to actually rotate the body up into the faceplate, and then once it's in place, then you can try to snap everything in. And this should be more like a snap. Oh, there the buttons go. can tell that once it gets seated in, it's definitely going to be good for the longevity. Okay, and there we have it. Oh yeah, these buttons are nice. So there we go. And so it's nice and soft now. So now we go to our I/O test. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take a picture of the table, clear it, exit it, and that concludes our assembly.